Hello YouTube, Ronin Kaze. Hey, we got it started. What's the best browser to use? I forget to do this sometimes. Well, I'm in Fallout 76. If you could like, subscribe, share, unsubscribe, resubscribe, I'd appreciate it. Trying to get to 500, then on to 1,000. So, what's the best browser? I've watched a couple videos on it. One video, the person did a very in-depth technical and then went against everything that the number said. And then the other one didn't consider anything that I think you should consider, and they just picked one that you could do anyways. So, what you have to know about browsers first off is that there's different rendering engines. And 80% of the market of browsers is based on whatever it's called, Blink. Whatever it is for the Google one, that's what's doing it. I have a snapshot. I'll tell you what the real name is. And then the other one is Gecko, which is like on Firefox. So basically 80% of the websites are built around the web engine for Google, and 20% is for Mozilla, Gecko, Firefox, and their derivatives. Web browsers are like Linux in that there's like a main branch and then there's offshoots, different specialties. But essentially, once you get into one, the Google one, everything has a process, even is created a separate process. So if you have add-ons or anything, they have a separate process. So in theory, if one of the processes crash, it doesn't bring down the whole browser. Gecko's different. So you're either a Gecko browser user or you're a Chrome browser user. So that's your first thing that you need to decide. Now, 80% of all websites are built to cater to Chrome. So if you're at a bank or utility company, how are you going to base your website? It's going to be based around serving the largest browser population. So no matter what, you have to have a Chrome-based browser as one of your two browsers. And the one I'm going to suggest is Chromium ungoogled. And you can get that on Linux. And you'll install Chromium ungoogled, and then you'll install Chromium ungoogled App Store. You'll only ever put two things on it. It'll be Dark Reader, and then the most popular, I think it's called Uconnect or whatever it's called, ad blocker. Only those two. Why? Because the overarching thing about browsers is we want to be secure. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Think about your house. Think about how much time you spend on furniture, your TVs, your utilities, and everything else. How much time do you spend on your locks and your security? Zero, you do. So let's get a browser that's secure first and then put on the niceties and then dress it up. Versus, oh, I'm going to get one with all these whoop-de-doo features and then I'm going to make it more secure. Not going to do it because you don't do it in your life. So why would you do it in your computer life? So in that respect, we're really left with one thing. You could go with Chromium. Some people are against that. But I'm going to say you have to have Chromium because some websites will not open unless you have things turned on in that universe. So you always want to use your bank, your utilities. So you're going to have Chromium that you're using for utilities. You only have two. You're not having all these other add-ons or anything onto it because it makes it less secure. So you're going to have a Gecko-based, because those are the ones like Zen and et cetera, Mozilla and some other things that are based on that are going to have the built around where you can have all these cool customizations and everything, vertical tabs and all that stuff. And then if we're going to do that, what does that mean? That means that you're only going to use LibreWolf because LibreWolf is secure right out of the box. And when you're on Linux, when you update LibreWolf, it's updated automatically in your normal, on CacheOS, I say update everything. Everything's updated, even my browser. High speed, low drag, it's already secure by default. A lot of people like Zen because it has these vertical tabs and some other things. You can duplicate all that in LibreWolf. It's very easy, and I even did it. I'm not going to go through all the browsers because it doesn't make any sense. Why would you ever take Chrome, Edge, Vivaldi, anything that's not 100% secure? Even Zen still talks to the Mozilla. It calls home. So that's why I get rid of it. You can build the nice features into it. Again, a lot of times people pick distros in Linux distros based on the wallpaper on the page. Like, that's idiotic. The wallpaper isn't the operating system. You can put whatever wallpaper you want on it. You could make your own wallpaper if you were an Etsy person. I get smoked right there. So now I have a corp retrieval. Here's a negative thing. Now I got to pick a place to go to. I go to this train station, and I got to run back and get my stuff out of my body. I don't remember what's dropped. It's all junk. I shouldn't have did it. So the rest of this video is me going back trying to get my stuff. So again, you only have two choices. If you're on Apple, you use WebKit, Safari. We're not going to talk about mobile today. It's a whole different animal. LibreWolf doesn't have a mobile. I use Firefox Focus when I do that. But Ronin, I don't care that you don't care today. Let's think about presidential candidates or Senate candidates. There's a Senate candidate that was in Maine that all his past stuff is dug up because he was on social media or whatever. Let's talk about Ronin Kaze and social media. I started getting on Facebook in 2008, and like a lot of people back then, I took a picture of the food I ate, or I take a picture out in my car window. Here's what my drive looks like. Then I stopped because it's like, why am I posting this? So I don't have a lot of history, and Mrs. Ronin Kaze just doesn't have any because she doesn't do it. There's some thought to be said you're hiding in plain sight. That's one way to hide. But in reality, I'm going to use a big word, a vector. You want to have smaller vectors, less surface area, right? You're not thinking about it now, but it's something you have to think about. And if you ever considered a VPN, if you ever considered a private DNS, right? I mean, and then you're just going to use a browser that spills all your guts. So some of the main things you want then are performance and compatibility and speed. But the first thing you want is security. So that's what all this is based on. And you'll notice a lot of my stuff, if I did a tier in this, I would just say there's only one tier. There's LibreWolf and Chromium on Google. And a lot of people don't like that because they want to go through the whole thing. There's no choice because privacy. If you use Opera, it has a lot of cool features. So that's kind of what we're doing here today. We're doing safe browsing, private browsing. And this is something, it's just, I use this browser and I'm automatically safer. Not completely safe. It's not 100, well, because it's not 100%, I don't need to do it. Nope, that's immature thinking, you two. And we're all grown-ups here, right? So who cares if I'm going to check out World Cup scores? I can just do it where everyone doesn't get my business and sells my data and blocks following ads and all those other things. That's just what you want. Unless you want that. Why don't I just use LibreWolf for everything? Because when I did my test, it wouldn't even load. It wouldn't load Google Earth because I had to enable a setting that was turned off by default. Because if I leave that setting on, Google Earth will let it see everything on my screen, even if it's not in its window. Why don't I have the add-ons? Because the add-on might work. I'll give you an example. I used to use Nova Launcher as my default launcher on my Android phones. It got sold. So all the things that you signed up for with Nova Launcher kind of changed. Now your stuff's getting sold. And that's what can happen with these add-ons, I forget, extensions, right? If an extension gets sold. So I said, well, how do I know that Dark Reader and the other one are? Because those are absolutely curated. They don't let them go on to Firefox unless they pass, right? So you're reducing the amount of, Listen, I loaded the Google Keep one. I don't load it anymore. I loaded my Gemini. I don't load it because Gemini can read your other screens. On Chromium, on Google, you're going to go to your bank site, your utilities and all that stuff, and you're going to use that. That's the time you're going to use it. But I don't want you didn't care before. The only reason you were using Chromium on Google is because some websites that we need to work on have to have that. So where does that leave us? It's really simple. The next thing that you have to do if you like Zen is you just got to recreate Zen in this new thing. You're going to pick out their colors and all that stuff, and you can make it as much Zen-like as you want. Because it's a computer. And with computers, you can make them however you want. You might not have one thing, but you can have those vertical tabs. And you can put other stuff over there. I watched one of the videos about browsers, and that's the thing that person liked, that easy use. They couldn't live without it. How about we just add security in there and use LibreWolf? How about the other video I had? LibreWolf's most secure. It's the best speed and the best memory usage. It's the best combination of everything. But I like Zen because then why have the video where you go through all this testing where your numbers say this thing's number one? I didn't always use LibreWolf, and I didn't always use more security, but why not? Make your vector as small as possible, you do. And so that's what gets me about a lot of this content when you do best of, or here's a 25 tier list for Linux distros. Really, the Linux distribution, do I like Arch? Do I like Debian? And even though Ubuntu is not, it's part of Debian, we'll give you Ubuntu, Debian, Arch, Fedora, and I mean, that's kind of it. I know there's a couple other ones that are in there, but they're not that popular. And what happens in all of this, right? Why did I pick CatchyOS? Because I'm a gamer, so I need that to run games, and it works great. And then I do everything else. This guy's gonna chase me. He killed me once before, YouTube. Then, in browsers, what are you using it for? I'm just using it to just get information. So why, for me to use their software for free, why do I got to give up all my information? He ain't, look, his legs on, he's on roller skates, YouTube. So that's you can't say, well, I need my browser. It can do that. If you want them in a different place, you can do that. I understand. On one of my computers, on my Chewy tablet, I changed it from KDE Plasma to LXQT. Not great, but I'm trying a little bit different because it's finally set for Wayland. And it's lighter weight. And that computer only has 8 gig and only has 256 gigs. So I'm trying to, what if I have a low resource computer? How does that impact my games? Right, that's when I might change a distro. Oh, and a quick update. So when I go to do this, I'm going to set my benchmarks and everything, and I do a system monitor, and it says I'm using 18 gig just after rebooting. So somehow in my Docker thing, it had kept my Windows Docker thing alive, even though I couldn't see it. I finally had to get help from AI to finally delete it, kill, and do all this other stuff, sudo this, sudo that. And then it finally got out of there. I won't ever run that ever again because it didn't show up as a process. It didn't die at the end of, and I had installed that, installed it and used it. Last time I used it maybe 2 weeks ago. That's Windows-esque, right? I have a background. So I have 60 gigabytes of RAM, but why I'm using 20 gigabytes of RAM after a reboot, right? That's Windows, right? And I won't use anything that does that. If it said, hey, I'm loading up Docker again, and it's right here, I would have been, oh, okay. So they got to do some work on that. I don't need to run Windows or Android on my PC that badly that I'm going to just donate 20 gigs and whatever resources. It uses the same amount of resources that it does on Chewy now that I got rid of that, right? So that's one of the things. So your browsers, I apologize I didn't go over each browser. All that stuff is superfluous. I'm going to give you the last anecdote. I've told this before. I used to, when I was VP at a place, and I'd have application engineers do presentations for, people would send us their parts. We'd measure them on our machine, and then we'd do a presentation what happened. And I had one guy, he's a friend of mine too, but I almost dropped it. And I almost shut it off. That would have been horrible. I'm almost near that. I said, do PowerPoint, blah, blah, blah. I can't do it because it's only on Office 13. And I was like, get in there and do it. Like, you don't need the latest and greatest tools. You should figure out how to do that if you like vertical tabs versus horizontal tabs. And just to tell you why vertical tabs are better, your screen's wider than it is taller. So the percentage of real estate you're losing is a lot less than if you do it on the top. I'm just saying, YouTube. You could use empirical knowledge for all your decisions, or you could just go willy-nilly. So you should always ask yourself why. That's a real important thing. That's what the name of the podcast version of this is, why, because you should be asking why all the time. So, recap. You got to use Chromium ungoogled. You can go to the ungoogled Chromium App Store and load that, so you're all set there. You can go on your bank and do your business on there. Then you're going to use LibreOffice. By default, it's protected. It's hardened right out of the gate. And then you're going to add the whoop-de-doo features later. I confirmed it. I have containerized instances in my Firefox, and I can do that in LibreWolf. And I can do the vertical tabs, which then has the same thing. So why would I be less secure? So that's Ronin Kaze. Sorry when I do these things and I just cut to the chase. Your time's valuable, YouTube, and so is mine. So this is Ronin Kaze, a lot happier than the last video. Bye, YouTube.